Good evening. I'd like to call the City Council, City of Waterville Council meeting to order for Monday, July 24th, 2023 to order. And I would ask for Anthony Bruno to lead us in the prayer.
Loving God, as we come together tonight for the City of Waterville, we pause to ask you to be with us and guide our way. May your spirit of peace surround all we say and do this evening. We ask for your strength to do what is best for the good of Waterville. Lord God, as servants of your people, we pray that you grant us to share your wisdom. Amen.
Thank you. And I'd ask citizen Matt Harold and his wife to lead us in the pledge. Thank you. Next, the clerk could provide roll call.
Here.
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 Here. Here.
Here. Next, before we have the approval of the minutes, I just want citizens and those here and those on the listening on the TV screen, we will have an executive session at the end of the meeting to go over some legal matters. And so it's not on the agenda, but it is going to happen. Next is approval of minutes. And if all had a chance to review those, so I'll take a motion to accept the minutes from June 26th.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded by Todd and seconded by John. Any discussion? I do have one item. When we were discussing appropriating some funds for the Rush to Boof activities, we said we would provide up to $25,000, and that would be for the Rush to Boof 50th anniversary event, which could include other activities, including Friday night. So with that correction, I would ask that we accept that edit. Do you accept that? Okay.
We'll renew our motion, Mayor.
Okay.
And second.
Thank you.
First.
All right, so we have a motion on the table, first and second. All those in favor of approving the minutes with the correction for Monday, June 26th, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Next is citizens' comments, and I do have a few. First is Scott Jans. Scott, please come to the podium and state your name and address.
Hello, I'm Scott Johns, 1207 Applegate Street. I have a few comments regarding the last meeting where we talked about resolution that was tabled on the hotel and the self-storage. The self-storage, in my, this is just my opinion, I don't think Parade Boulevard is the right venue for self-storage unit, only because I'm thinking long-term for Waterville, the growth of Waterville and the business district, and having that sticking in that major corridor of the business district, I think would be, I don't think it's very appealing. My thought is we're expanding the industrial park. Why not consider that over there into the industrial park? Or the other option would be, we have this other industrial park that has sat dormant for years, 15 years or so. It's where Duval Woodworking is. You got those two businesses out in front. Mm-hmm. But we went to the expenditure of putting the roadway in there and everything. And to my knowledge, there's nothing back there yet. And I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that was designed before the bypass went through, thinking that we would have more businesses coming in there, but now that the bypass is in, it's really kind of a awkward spot for an industrial park. One of the thoughts that I had on that issue was, is that possible to get that rezoned, and not strictly just commercial, but maybe rezone it into a multi-use or mixed use venue to where you could put some apartments back there, some housing. Since I, correct me if I'm wrong again, but I don't see that prospering as a major industrial hub in that area. And, you know, you got the residential area behind it, and, it's just a thought. I thought I'd throw that out there.
Good. We can certainly invite the owners of that property to consider rezoning it, and that's possible too, that could happen.
Right. Yeah, and I understand everything's privately owned, so you got situations there, but just food for thought from that aspect.
Good. Anything else?
That's it.
All right, thank you, Scott.
All right.
Next, we have Terry Masucci. Terry?
That's a good idea.
Hi, I'm Terry Masucci, 1101 Waterville, Monclova Road, Waterville, 43566. Wanted to kind of announce that John Nicholson, AKA John's Veggie Stand, has agreed to let us put a table in front of his house for a free harvest share. So surplus fruits or vegetables that anybody has, if they have an abundance of peppers, cucumbers, that sort of thing, that should start probably this week sometime that we'll set that up. I will announce things with on Meanwhile in Waterville, Ohio, when it does. If the city wants to put anything like that on your website, that'd be great once it starts. Waterville Wally, growing the rock snake that is going around, will start on Wednesday. It's pretty self-explanatory once I get this posted. But the way it'll work is the kids will read a book, they'll get a ticket, they'll get to come to the Conrad Park, paint a rock, and it'll keep building. I've got the head and the tail, and it'll keep building in between until we can keep wrapping it around the gazebo as far as we can go, and hopefully very far. Depending on the response, I'd like to extend it out to the 3 nursing homes, depending on that, and have like just a one paint day for those places. Let's see, if it wasn't for, well, not if it wasn't for, but it's a great shout out for Riverfront Studios, Something Special Learning Center, Waterville Hardware and Paint, the library, Ohio Paint and Drywall, Matt Harrell and Katie Williams for helping with this. They gave us money, which gave us supplies for the paint, paintbrushes, tablecloths, anything we needed for that. So that was a great for them to get involved that way. The next thing that will start probably sometime in August, which I'll announce that later, along with hiding Frisbees throughout the city, we're going to hide kindness coins. And what that will be is there'll be different colored coins, plastic of course, and they'll be hidden throughout the city. People will find them, kids, even adults, don't care. You can either collect them or pay it forward and re-hide it. And for each coin found, they have to do a good deed on that. And that's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Terry.
Next, Jerry Hannawell. Jerry?
My name is Jerry Hannawall, 209 North River Road. In the June council meeting, I offered comments about the public right-of-way at Mechanic Street. 3 days later, the first round of weed control was completed. Following that, I emailed the administrator, public works director, and police chief acknowledging the effort and commenting that a contractor must have done the work because I could not believe public works employees would leave a large burdock plant and an invasive tree standing next to the railing. About 10 days later, a second cleanup effort removed the burdock and greatly improved the overall site. The recently cut Canada thistles are now a healthy green, and some of them are a foot tall already. Because the weed control stopped at the end of the railing, which is about halfway between the river, I wondered why. I contacted ODOT and was told by Andrew Beaverson that Waterville's maintenance responsibility begins at the river's edge and goes west. After learning this, I emailed the mayor and the public works director asking why this area does not comply with chapter 905 of the city code. Mayor has reviewed the code and found some interesting requirements. And when I wrote this, I did not know if he's evaluated the site for compliance. Public Works Director replied that he will check the site out. I'm not aware of the results of his investigation. As of noon today, nothing has been done to the weeds or trees. The area in question is not compliant with Chapter 905 because it is overrun with invasive trees and noxious weeds. The site must be improved to be considered a Waterville feature. Questions?
No, I'll just add the comment that thanks for the email. I did stop there, like I mentioned. I took some pictures, and honestly, it looked like some of the weeds, if you will, were taken down. But talking to you tonight, it looks like we need some more work to be done. So I'm sure Kenny will look into that.
In defense of Kenny, he's got some work planned now with some of his skilled people that will tackle the invasives and clean the area up. It's distressing to some degree because there's a tree that was probably part of the original landscaping on the bridge, and I don't know if it's forced from a snowplow knocked the tree over or what, but now it's almost laying flat, and the bark on the tree is showing signs of decay, and so I think that tree is probably a goner. And there's a big rock pile, probably would it fill this room? And it's boulders, and that's got a lot of invasive trees in it, and so it's going to be a fun job to get those out. So.
Thank you, Jerry.
I always like what the mayor says. We can always do better.
Pardon me?
We can always do better.
Yes.
We have to do better.
All right, next up is Ray Tylaki. If you could please go to the microphone. State your name and your address, please.
Hi, my name, it's kind of unusual to have an outsider here, but my name is Raymond Taliski. I would like to compliment the kindness of the ambulance company who took me to the hospital last night after my blood pressure hit the roof. On the way back, I tried contacting Tartar to get a bus back here, and I noticed that there was a bus shelter here when I came into town yesterday. So my question here is, when I got a ride, the flex service or whatever could only find me a ride till like 7:30 in the evening. But I did find a couple who was an older couple who finally gave me a ride back here. And I hadn't been in Toledo in about 4 or 5 years, and I really was surprised how the corridor along the Miami River is growing, and building and housing is being built, and jobs are out here. And I don't know about public transit, but I guess the shelter was built at a time when there was a bus that ran out here. And I see the area that I live in, Albany, we have a place called Waterford, and we just put in a new bus system that runs on express lanes every 30 minutes or every 20 minutes. But I was just wondering here, I just saw, because I have friends over in the Broadway district or in the city of Toledo who would love to come out here and fill these jobs if they can get to them. And it's very difficult to get any public transportation past Rossford to where all this growth is happening between Waterville and along the Ohio River, and businesses are asking for people to go to work, they just can't get here. So can someone tell me, was there a bus service here? I know, well, that's a long time ago. And in the reverse, you have a brand new hospital out here that people can't easily get to either. So can someone, yeah.
I can probably make just some general comments. You would be best served by,
Because I tried talking to Tarda and it was a really confusing
Well, then I probably should hold my comment, what I'm gonna say. But I would invite you to call back to TARTA, and they do have, you know, persons at the other end of the line, I'm told, and I've called there a few times for some other reasons, and they should be able to help you.
It just so happens to be that my background in Albany, I deal with our regional planning.
They can't hear you.
Yeah.
My background actually in Albany, New York, is as I live in Bethlehem, New York, but I actually deal with our regional planning organization, which is here, and sometimes we talk to you guys, and they talk to us to give advice to each other back and forth, and it just so happens to be that there's grants out there every 3 years that grants are now being applied for to extend, that cities have to apply for to extend the bus service, or at least have a study to see whether it would work or not.
I would, again, invite you to call TARTA because they did do an extensive study over the last few years and have made some improvements. Now, I don't know all the details of when they run, what time, but again, I would ask you to reach out to TARTA or TMACOG, that's the Toledo Area Metropolitan Council of Governments. Sounds like there's a planning agency you might be familiar with. They might be able to assist you as well. But we thank you for bringing that to our attention. More importantly, thanks for taking time to thank our EMS and our police and fire for doing a great job. So thank you. Okay. Next up is staff reports. We will start with our administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. Council has a copy of my report. I did want to mention that we have a couple of projects coming up here this summer, and one of those is paving Memorial Park Drive and path improvements. So weather permitting, August 7th, Allied Paving is going to be resurfacing School Place and the cul-de-sac along the river. And then, as we've talked about before, we're going to be installing walking paths along both sides of the bridge. So we'll be regrading that whole area, we'll be redesigning the whole area, and installing a 10-foot wide walking path on both sides of the bridge. So that is going to be starting soon. Hopefully we'll get all the weeds and things over there. That's what we're going to be working on. That's the construction area that we'll be working on. The other project coming up is the steady paving program, and Bowers Asphalt is scheduled to start the week of July 31st. So they'll be starting on Farmview Drive, Patriot Drive, East and West, Independence Drive, Mount Vernon Drive, Mount Vernon Court, and then they'll also be doing the alley behind the building here, the police drive, and the municipal parking lot. So we'll start on the residential areas first, and then finish up, again, weather permitting, the week of August 7th or the 14th out in the alley here behind the building. And then I wanted to mention that the staff and I have met with the Rotary Club for the Blues, Brews, and Brats this weekend. So hopefully everything is all set from the city's end. We will have Wi-Fi for Rotary to sell tickets and things around the clock tower area. The area is the same as it was last year. 3rd Street is going to be closed from Mechanic just past Farnsworth Road, and the food trucks will be on the south end, and the stage will be over closer to Mechanic. And if you've noticed, we've hung up some banners that the Rotary Club bought, and the idea is they're going to put those up. We'll put them up for the Rotary Club every year for this event. We also have the Oliver Hazard Days coming up on Saturday, August 12th, and that is sponsored, co-sponsored by the Arts Commission of Greater Toledo. And then we did get our first order of the Hometown Hero banners in, so we'll be putting those up hopefully in areas in the downtown before the Blues, Brews, and Brats as well. I have been doing some research on the architectural review idea, and one of the communities that we looked at is the city of Sylvania, and it operates very similar to what the city of Waterville already does. We have a historic overlay. They have a historic overlay. They also have a commercial overlay, and a residential overlay that are historic. So that's one of the things that the Architectural Review Committee reviews, and then they also have a gateway architectural district, which is the area around 23. So one of the things that I think was a concern of council was the Prairie Boulevard area, and our current commercial overlay district is only around the main thoroughfares, and it only goes back either 250 feet from the right-of-way or 600 feet from the right-of-way. So maybe the idea is that we look at a commercial overlay for the entirety of Prairie Boulevard that's zone commercial. And I guess I would suggest we start with the Planning Commission on that. They make a recommendation to council. Council would have to do a ordinance to amend the zoning code and establish that overlay over all of Prairie Boulevard that's zone commercial. So that's kind of where we are looking at. It's very similar. A lot of the existing requirements that the city already has in its commercial overlay district, Sylvania already does those as well. So I just thought it was a good place to start, and maybe we can have some discussion with the Planning Commission on a recommendation from them back to council on this. They seem to be in favor of the idea as well, and we can move forward with it.
Okay. Questions for the administrator? Start with Rod Fry.
I have no questions.
Barb?
No questions, thank you.
Mary? Anthony?
Just one quick one, maybe, John, your reference to resurfacing the cul-de-sac reminded me when we were talking about this a month or two ago, there was some discussion about removing trees between the school place and the bridge, I think. Is there any more developments in that regard?
Well, we are gonna remove some trees, and when you look at the master plan for the park, that portion of the area was supposed to be open space, and then, we can plant more appropriate species for the park. There are some invasive trees in there, and so we're taking out some trees, and, we're planning on putting some trees back in there as well.
Taking out some and leaving some, sounds like.
Right,
Is that
exactly, yeah. The bigger ones we're leaving, and, I think there's 26, 36-inch trees that, we're keeping, but the smaller trees and the invasive trees we're removing. But the whole area will be graded, regraded, the pass will be put in, and then, it'll be easier to maintain that as well, so.
All right, good. Thanks, John.
Todd?
No, John, thanks for doing all that work with the ARC. The mayor's been keeping me in the loop, so and it's good to see the Planning Commission is in favor of it as well. So, yep, thanks. I'm all good.
Good. Law Director?
Briefly, Your Honor, I would indicate that the second referendum request at the Board of Elections was not going on the ballot. It was administrative action, as the first was. It just took a long time to get there. And at this point in time, the only litigation left is the appeal of the amphitheater conditional use in front of Judge Navarre. And that case is decisional. All briefs have been filed, and I would expect a decision sometime in the not too distant future.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Questions for our Law Director? Okay, we'll go to our Finance Director.
Good, thank you.
You have my report in front of you. Balances are on page 1 and 6. 6 is a good view for comparison purposes. Our fund balances for all funds is $12,227,246. That's above last year's by $1,415,000. It's above May's by $92,818, and it's above December of '22 by $1,734,000. And so, again, our balances are very healthy, and Steve's gonna elaborate a little bit on some of the different things that those balances are required to be used for, okay? So next, I'll just go to the reader report. June is on page 15. We covered that in the last meeting. July is on page 18. And we are sitting at a 16.2% increase over last year. That is a ballpark of $3,183,847 over and above what we were at year to date last year. So we're doing, again, our income tax revenues are healthy, they're just keep increasing. The businesses, which is primarily the withholdings at ballpark of 67, 70%, are doing good. Any particular questions?
Questions for Mark?
Just real quick, Mark, either I didn't hear you correctly or you misspoke, but
Go
I
ahead.
think the difference between last year and this year is 440,000, not 3 million.
Yeah.
443,000,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, you're right. Thank you.
that's right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Todd?
All good.
Mary?
Nothing.
Barb?
No, thank you.
Rod?
All set, thank you.
All right, thanks, Mark. Thanks for the
Thanks,
report.
Mark.
Next is our treasurer, Steve Schultz.
I'm out of the way.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I believe you all have a copy of my report. And just in case you didn't notice, there is a page 2 of my report, a back page of my report this time that I will also be discussing that Mark and I worked on a little bit this week. So we do have the June accounts reconciled, and as you can see in my report, consistent with what Mark had mentioned, the main fund balances that we look at and monitor and track the trends on are all doing very well. The water and sewer funds we broke the $3 million mark here in June, which is great, and that's actually the healthiest that's been in the last 2 years. Capital fund, we're a little over 2 million, which is again is very healthy. Our general funds at 5.2 million, which is again very strong. And the balance of all our funds, as Mark mentioned, is, and again, I like to use round numbers, is about $12,200,000. So again, that's all good news. We are healthy. We're managed very well. The council does a great job, the finance committee, et cetera. But the thing I think is important to talk about mid-year, I guess I will say, and I know council knows this, but a lot of this is for the TV audience, okay, that I want them to understand. We don't really have $12.2 million that we can just spend on anything we want. I know you know that. And so that's why I have on the back page there, we actually have, the city of Waterville has 24 funds with money in all of those funds. We typically talk about the general and the capital and the water and sewer because those are by far the biggest funds. But we've got 24 funds and they all have money in them that has to be spent for specific purposes. So we can't just use any of that money for whatever anybody wants to use that money for. So what I had on here was, again, you'll see each has its dedicated purpose and the money has to be used for that according to the Ohio Revised Code. So we have to follow that, and we are audited every year by the state or an outside accounting firm to make sure that is happening and that we aren't using any of the monies in those various funds for their non-intended purposes. A strong general fund balance is extremely important because it really helps us with our bond rating and in the interest rates that we can get for our debt. So just as an example, we have $23,000 of debt that's at 2.75%. We have about $9 million of debt, okay? All of the rest of that debt is at less than 1.5% interest rate, okay, which is fabulous. And that's because we got in on good timing on bond refinancing, and we had a very strong general fund balance. So the market out there said this is a strong place. We can give you really favorable interest rates. So again, when you look at this, at what I put together here, or what Mark and I put together, you'll see, again, we have a general fund of $5.2 million. Our Parks and Green Space has $630,000 in it. But once again, that has to just be used for Parks and Green Space. We can't use it for other purposes. I listed a couple of the big ones on here. I didn't list all of them out, but the permissive tax fund is money we get from the county for licenses. The money when you register your car, we get money. That has to be used for road improvements. The fire levy fund, we all know we had a vote on that a year and a half, 2 years ago, whenever that was. That has to be used for the fire department. The American Rescue Plan has about $420,000. Again, that's all COVID related. Has to be used for certain purposes. It actually can be used for water and sewer also, which is really good for us. But again, it has certain things it has to be used for. And the water and sewer funds are what are called enterprise funds. They are designed to be like a business. So we monitor where the monies are in that fund to determine if we need to raise the rates or could lower the rates, because they are supposed to be self-sufficient funds. No money from anywhere else comes into those. They just are paid for by our water and sewer bills. So again, 12.2 sounds like a lot. It is a lot, okay? But we can't use it for anything we want. We have to use it for specific purposes. The other thing that's important to understand is, as I mentioned, we have about a little over $9 million of debt that's sitting on the books. That money is used to pay debt payments also throughout the year. So as an example, we have about $2.8 million of debt in our capital fund. That is primarily for the fire station and the ladder truck and fire trucks. Big ticket items that we've got to take out debt on. We have about $6.4 million of debt in our water and capital, in our water and sewer funds. Right? These water projects are not cheap, and we've got a lot of aging infrastructure that we're going to need to continue to make improvements to those water and sewer. I know council knows that. Again, I just want that to be known with, as I say, with the TV audience. So. Again, I thought mid-year is a good time to kind of go through what I call some fund accounting basics. I always hated fund accounting in college, but it is what it is, and it's very important to understand that as to what we can utilize that money for. And again, I normally don't talk about debt until we get our end of the year audit. Then we talk about what our trends are in the debt. But thought it'd be helpful mid-year to remind people we got debt too that we got to pay off, just like everybody has their house mortgage that you got to pay off. So with that, that's the end of my report, unless there's any questions.
I would just ask that you would expand on the audits we have annually and how we've done over the years in terms of ratings and so forth.
Yeah, the annual audit that we get, we're required to have an audit by the state, and boy, I can't even remember the last time. I know as long as I've been treasurer for about 20 years, and it's not because of me, it's because we got a great group of people here within the administration. But we've had unqualified opinions for the last 20 years, hardly ever even have any management letter comments. So this group here does a very nice job of managing our finances and keeping within what, spending what we should be spending in what areas that we're required to be spending. So yeah, the audit reports when I come up here have been very easy the last few years because I can just change a couple dates because they're all the same, very clean and been very positive.
Council, any comments or questions?
Just one quick one, Steve. Thanks very much, Steve. This was really enlightening. I agree with you. It's good to get this on the record and out in the public so everybody knows. We don't have a massive fund to spend on anything. Although we do have good funding. I mean, if everything went south, we could carry the city with the general fund for
Correct.
8 or 10 months, I think.
Correct. Right. Yes, we're in very good shape. We got a good rainy day funds there to tide us over for a while.
Yep.
Not for a long time, but
Right.
for a while.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's not indefinite.
Correct.
Just one question on the American Rescue Plan, and you or John, is there a deadline when we have to spend the rest of that?
John probably knows that more than I
I'm
do.
thinking it's 2025.
Sounds right.
Yeah,
2025?
yeah. And we should be on track to come in a little ahead of that, so.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to Mark for putting a lot of this stuff together too, so.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I will, and I agree, I'll thank the administration also for keeping us on track.
Next up is our police chief, Joe Valvano.
Evening, Mayor and Council. You should all have a copy of my report. Couple things to add. Officer Grindstaff has completed his field training. He was a lateral. He's on his own now. Last week, the 28th Waterville Safety City program graduated 42 students. It was another great success. I'd like to thank Judge Hazard and Mayor Pedro for stopping by. They gave a few words supporting the program. Also, Chief Meyer for participating in the program, sending 2 firefighters, J.D. Dorner, I think it's Sam Iben, to the week-long class. We appreciated the extra help. Officers did work the Rock the Block event on June 22nd. The event ran smoothly. There was no issues to report. And lastly, tomorrow we're bringing 6 of our patrol cars up to have Axon cameras, in-car cameras installed. So those should be done by the end of the week. That's all I have.
Council, any questions for our chief?
You know,
All right.
how's the juvenile delinquents, you know, in the summertime, it kind of peaks out a little bit?
It's not bad.
Good.
I think we posted a couple times on Facebook, some videos, and it's died down after that. So we haven't had many contacts at all.
Wonderful.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe. Next is our fire chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You have a copy of my report. I only have the 2 things to add. One was Safety City. So our guys enjoyed Safety City, and I was not here. That's my other item. I was attending the Ohio Fire Chiefs Conference and Legislative Committee down in Columbus all last week, so I was not here for Safety City, but I did understand the 2 gentlemen reported it was a lot of fun, and it turned out to be a great event from what I understand. So thanks for inviting me to that. And other than that, that's all I have.
Questions for the fire chief?
I think Safety City, by the way,
Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, John Rozek had.
Yeah.
I would say both chiefs for Safety City, it's a terrific program. I know you had a lot of contributions from the community. Various members of the community made contributions for the program, and my grandson enjoyed it terrifically. So thanks very much.
Next, we have our Public Works Director, Kenny Blair.
Thank you, Mayor. You have a copy of my report. Mr. Goshenauer covered a couple projects. I have a couple more I'll update on. The Anthony Wayne Trail intersection project, it's near completion. There's only a few things left. Some electrical work, some street signage on the mast arms, and some restoration. That'll complete that project. We've been working on the 2023 sidewalk program. All the information has been sent to the city engineer to request for proposals, and that'll be on the next agenda on July 28th. Canal Road Waterline project, currently we're just waiting for a schedule on a pre-con meeting. We haven't got that nailed down yet, so hopefully that'll happen in the near future. Prairie Trail Park and Stitt Park parking lot project, that project is to begin in August. And the curb replacement project that has been completed. We'll be setting up for Brews and Brats at the end of the week, getting ready for that event. In mid-August, we're going to be setting up a class for confined space entry for all the full-time employees. That's all I have.
Questions for Kenny Blair?
Kenny, I have 2 easy ones. Bear Park, I've talked to some residents. They said the recycling bins are always full over there. The truck kind of turns around at Bear Park, but it is always full over there.
Recycling?
Recycling,
Okay.
yes. Yep. So I don't think they've been emptied in quite some time.
You can take care of that.
And then secondly, right on the front, you have superintendent for streets, superintendent for utilities. Who's our superintendent for like buildings and grounds? Do we have one or?
Not quite as yet.
Okay.
But we're
Does that mean it's in the works?
Don't have one yet.
Am I doing something that I shouldn't hear? What?
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
All right. Maybe next time I'll see it.
I have one thing.
Anything else?
So I had a citizen request for new tennis nets up at Bear Park. I guess they've been zip tying them together. It's like $190 a piece or something, I think. If we could get those ordered, I think the tennis players and the pickleball teams would appreciate it.
Is it tennis or pickleball or both?
It's tennis, the
Tennis,
tennis.
Okay.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you. Next is communications from council members and committees, and I'll start with Rod Fry, Vice Mayor.
I have nothing to report this evening.
Thank you. Barb?
Nothing to report, thank you.
Mary?
No report this evening, Your Honor.
No report.
Just real quick, Mayor, I was able to attend, thanks to the mayor, the Thrivent ribbon cutting, although I missed the ribbon cutting, unfortunately. And very nice. They did terrific work in that house that was basically not being used on right across the street here on Second Street. So that's terrific to have them in the neighborhood. You wouldn't recognize the interior with the changes that Thrivent made. So I just wanted to welcome them.
Just the roundabouts, there's no update on that. I've talked to Mike Stormer, we're waiting on a drawing. I know ODOT took care of the one in Perrysburg, we're still waiting on ours, but thanks to Public Works, that they're really doing a good job maintaining it. The ARC, thanks John on that, and I think that's it for me.
So I just have a couple things. Shout out to Public Works. I got a phone call on a Thursday morning. I forget the exact date, but the citizen on Village Parkway was having some sewage back up in his basement. That's not a good thing. And he didn't know who to call, so he somehow, luck of the draw, he picked me. But anyways, I called John, and I said, John, this is the situation that I learned of. And within an hour or so, Kenny and his team were out there, investigated it, and found the cause, and got the gas company involved, and by Monday mid-afternoon the line was repaired and fixed, and the citizen was very pleased that the city acted as quickly as they did. A couple other things, I think, with the 4th of July activities up at the school with the volunteers and of course the staff, Public Works and whatnot, police and fire cooperated. I think it was a very well attended event. I want to call out again to Tom Shoemaker, is the one gentleman that donated $1,000 to help with the Safety City and the rebuilding of the structures, and the high school students did a great job of putting them together. So nice team effort, working together in a cooperative fashion. I also attended some of the ribbon cutting ceremonies with the chamber, which they do a good job, and thanks to John for attending the last one. I wasn't able to be there. Lastly, I had a little bit of fun last Thursday. I got to fish with the Fish Ohio with the governor, not with him personally, but on the lake with about 20 boats, and we had fun and learned a little bit more about Lake Erie and how they're trying to continue to keep it clean, and the cooperation from the various agencies. So it was also informative as well. Next is some old business. The referral to the Planning Commission, a conditional use permit for application for a self-storage unit facility for a property located in the 1400 block of Prairie Boulevard. This motion was tabled on June 26th. And John, you want to give us some more background?
This is a self-storage unit facility. It is located in the 1400 block of Prairie Boulevard. It's next to the apartment complex, and the next Planning Commission meeting is August 7th, 2023.
Okay, I need a motion to refer to this to the Planning Commission. Need a motion?
Should we take it off the table first?
Excuse me, you're right. I need a motion to take this off the table.
So moved.
So moved from Todd Borowski. Need a second?
Second.
Second, Barbara Bruno. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. All right, now need a motion to refer to the Planning Commission a conditional use permit application for a self-storage unit facility for a property located in the 1400 block of Prairie Boulevard.
I move to approve and send it to the planning commission.
You move, need a second?
Second.
Second, Anthony Bruno. Any more discussion?
Yeah, I would just, we don't have a choice, I guess, council, right? We do have to send this to the planning commission, is that correct?
We do.
Okay. So that's the first step. I made the comment at our last meeting, and I agree with Mr. Johns, that, is it okay to comment, council, on this before planning, or do I have to wait?
Well, certainly, everyone's entitled to their opinion. We don't have any recommendation in front of us at this time, but,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Okay, I'll give you my opinion. I do not think it's a good use of that land on Prairie Boulevard. We really have to be careful, I think. And Todd sort of got this ball rolling with the Architectural Review Committee. But I think Prairie Boulevard is really a critical area in the city, and we really need to be careful with how that develops. I don't think a storage facility anywhere on Prairie Boulevard really would be the best or the most attractive use of that property. So that's my comment. I know it'll go to the Planning Commission, and we can consider it with their referral.
Anyone else? So it's been moved and seconded to refer this to the Planning Commission. All those in favor say aye.
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 Jenny, I'll need to abstain.
Okay. Thank you, Rod.
Yep.
Next is a referral to the Planning Commission, a conditional use permit application for a hotel for a property located in the 600 block of Prairie Boulevard. This motion was tabled 6/26/23. I need a motion to take it, put it back on the table.
So moved.
So moved, Todd Borowski. Need a second, Anthony Bruno. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So it's off the table. Now I need a motion to refer to the Planning Commission a conditional use permit application for a hotel for a property located in the 600 block of Prairie Boulevard.
So moved.
So moved, Anthony Bruno. Need a second?
Second.
Second, Barbara Bruno. So moved and seconded. Any more discussion?
We're merely, again, we're following the process.
Right.
And last council meeting, we hit a pause. It wasn't that we weren't gonna send it to the planning commission. We just had to take a pause, explore the architectural review, and clearly we found out some information that's gonna only enhance projects such as this. And I'm sure this will be coming back around.
Good. My only comment along the lines of what John Rozek mentioned, I did hear from some folks, and I know we can't suggest exactly what it will look like, but some citizens and some comments from other council members were such that maybe it's, if you go to Levitt's Common, you see some rather attractive looking buildings, different brands of hotels that could be there. So that's my comment. I just want to bring that forward. All right, it's been moved and seconded to refer to the Planning Commission the conditional use permit for application for hotel for property located in the 600 block of Prairie Boulevard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain. Thank you. Next is Resolution 2923, a resolution providing for the submission to the electors of the City of Waterville of proposed amendment to the charter of the City of Waterville regarding council, administrative departments, financial procedures, initiative, referendum, and recall, general provisions, and transitional procedures. John? Well, I guess we take it off the table first. Need a motion to take Resolution 2923 off the table.
So moved.
So moved, Mary Duncan.
Second.
Second, John Rozek. You can be third, Todd. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now, John, can you give us a little bit of a background on Resolution 2923?
Thank you, Mayor. At your last council meeting, you had two single-issue charter amendments, and this particular issue was tabled. There were some suggestions from council that we needed to consider some additional revisions to Charter Section 903 recall. So it was suggested that the additional 20-day circulation period, if a recall petition is found to be insufficient, should be removed. And that's due to its conflict with 3501 of the Ohio Revised Code, which prohibits alterations, corrections, additions after a petition has been filed with a public office. So there's a conflict there with another part of the Ohio Revised Code. And then there was another suggestion that to avoid the cost of potential special election, that another recommended change was that if a recall petition was found to be sufficient, would be placed on the next available regular primary or general election ballot. So those suggestions were put into Resolution 29-23 for your consideration.
And that's the addition of Roman numeral 10.
Correct.
Just to be sure in the resolution. And yeah, thanks, John, John and I talked about this last week, and the changes are exactly what I had in mind for that particular charter section. So I think it's all good.
I need a motion to accept Resolution 2923.
So moved.
So moved, Mary Duncan.
Second.
Second, Rod Fry. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. New business, Resolution 3423, a resolution approving the proposed amendments to the operating agreement with the Lucas County Regional Combined Health District and authorizing the mayor to sign said agreement. John, can you give us some background, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Periodically, the Lucas County Regional Combined Health District, they renew their operating agreement. It expires, or someone proposes to make changes to the agreement. And as everyone's aware, the city is a member of the health district, along with all the cities, villages, and townships in the county. The agreement expired at the end of last year, and the county has proposed a new agreement. 4 primary changes. Obviously, the effective date it's January 1, 2023 to December 31st, 2028. You can allow an alternate to be take your place at a meeting, which makes a lot of sense. They're changing the allocation of costs in 2024, so it'll be based on population, and then in the agreement there's treatment of in-kind contributions that are provided by the city of Toledo and Lucas County, so those are spelled out in there. The big impact to the city is that our costs are going to be going up in 2024 by roughly $21,000, so that's a 65% increase. And in the attached agreement, you'll notice all the communities essentially have increases. Toledo is losing population, so their assessment is going down, but that's the only community where that's happening. And we have not, we fared a little bit better than other communities. White House has an 84% increase, so that seems like quite a bit too. But it's to fund the health department till the end of 2028.
All right, I need a motion to accept Resolution 3423.
So moved.
So moved, Mary Duncan, second by Anthony Bruno. Any more discussion?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I probably should have brought this up before we moved to accept it. I do have some concerns over this. When was the last time we did this? Because I remember then too, I was not a big fan of this. And some of the terminology, I'm a big fan of the health department. I think that's important. Mary Duncan, actually, you sat on this committee, is that correct?
On the board.
On the board. So, so I understand, but I do have glaring questions. Given what we've been through with COVID, everybody went through that. And we all saw a lot of power go to health departments and bureaucrats, quite frankly, with little to no accountability. And this particular agreement, if there were a crisis, would empower what they call their chief administrative officer or health commissioner, express powers over all the jurisdiction. It says, the Regional Combined Health District Board may adopt rules and regulations for the purposes of administering such health and environmental affairs as authorized by law. The rules and regulations adopted or enacted by the Regional Combined Health District Board shall be enforceable throughout its geographical jurisdiction as applicable. Well, I'd like to be talking to somebody about what does that mean, enforceable? By what means enforceable?
I would defer to our law director, but the health department has to follow state statutes that are enacted by the General Assembly in regard to the enforcement of health codes, and they can't exceed their authority. Would that be correct?
That is correct.
Well, but then you go on, page 6, nothing contained herein shall be construed to limit the power or the authority of the Regional Combined Health District Board or the Health Commissioner in administering the duties of the Regional Combined Health District, provided such administrations of duties does not reduce the services to be provided the townships and villages, it's very wordy, which comprise the Lucas County General Health District, or the services to be provided generally throughout the respective city health districts. So when they don't want their power limited.
Well, they're limited by the Ohio Revised Code. They're just saying in this document, don't construe this as somehow limiting our power under this document, but they still have to follow the code as relates to how they administer and how they cite and where to go to court.
Okay, and also, I would prefer that wording is contracts, agreements, all these things are very important. We've learned that as well. Now our eyes are wide open. I would prefer that it was an advisory committee and not like absolute, you know, passing laws and things like that that could impact when you mow your lawn, if you have a gas stove. I mean, we've all heard rumors of all of this going on, right?
Right, but the Ohio Revised Code is what gives them the power. We're just saying we're not conflicting with that. That's all we're saying. We agree with the Ohio Revised Code. That's what we're saying. We're saying we agree that we are not gonna try to overpower the Ohio Revised Code. That's what they're asking.
So they're subject to.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Still don't like the wording.
I
I don't like it at all.
don't like the legal wording.
I'm on the record for that. Also, okay, so on page 8, in-kind services.
Yep.
Well, okay, well, we have to go back real quick to cost allocation on page 6.
Yep.
So the intergovernmental revenue amount, which is how we were budgeted before, now they're changing how they budget, right, based on our population. So it's really kind of messy through here, 6 and 7, because they still talk about the intergovernmental revenue amount and how they derive it. But then in that paragraph, a couple later, they're talking about how they're now changing it to a population. So I think it's kind of messy. Is there any attorneys around?
No.
Have you read this? It's not a clean document, in my opinion. Let's see here. So I'm wondering, so in-kind contributions, should those be even a part of figuring the intergovernmental revenue amount as budgeted? I mean, because those get very exorbitant. And just for the sake of the public, I mean, we're talking about a budget here, if I'm right, it's $3,737,000, $371.19. Is that their annual budget?
For 2023.
For 2023. That's as much as a small city, you know, or a small village, right? That's a lot of money. I would like to see the budget, quite frankly. And then it's going up, and they're getting all these in-kind services, just for the sake, again, for the benefit of the public. These in-kind services, Board of County Commissioners shall provide office, operational, and parking space for the WIC program. The Board of Commissioners shall provide in-kind support, accounting, purchasing, payroll, including but not limited to accounts receivable and accounts payable. Now, that's in addition to all the monies that we're all putting in. Now, am I blowing this out of proportion?
Yes,
I don't
but the
know.
county has provided this since the city of Toledo and the county combined their services. The county agreed that they would fund this part, and the city would fund part of it, and the rest of us get the rest that's left. Okay, so, and then the federal government also turns around and says, oh, we have COVID, you have to do this and this and this. Oh, we're not gonna give you any money to do that. You have to spread that among the population that you cover. So that's part of why that's that number.
Well, we didn't get any of that.
Well, yeah, we did. We actually did. We got COVID money.
No,
We-
that wasn't from this pool.
Correct.
This wasn't from that pool.
But that was to support the structure.
Yeah,
I'll say that.
that's what they call an unfunded federal mandate.
Which we have lots of.
Lots
They
of.
have them every year, you know, every year.
All right, well, I do have a question then, going back again, page 1. So we joined this March 1st, 2012. Although on the resolution, I think it said we joined February 27th, 2012. A little discrepancy there. Then what did we do before 2012?
They were two separate entities. So the city of Toledo had one, and the county had, and then they combined. That's when they combined into
Okay.
one organization.
Or Waterville joined them?
And we joined the county organization for public health.
All right. And I don't like the duration.
Oh, the
And
5 years?
Yeah, I think that's a very long period
Well,
of
it
time.
does stop you from getting another increase for 5 years at least.
It does.
And you can opt out, but it takes a year to opt out.
Correct. And then you stop all
So-
restaurant inspections, swimming pool inspections.
But why would that even be an option then?
For you to opt out, you have to do it yourself then. So
Oh,
if
the
you can
city
do
would
that for
implement their own.
21,000 or whatever
No.
that number was.
Yeah, we couldn't afford to do it
if-
in-house.
if- But if you opt out, that's
Falls
what
on
happens.
you.
Then the city has to do all the inspections, the nursing home inspections, all the things you read about in the paper. That's part of what they do with that money.
I don't know, does anybody else have any comments?
Go ahead.
I just know how it works.
John, I'm gonna ask.
Yeah, I know you do. That's why I thought we'd have a good,
Barbara, you done?
good discussion here, Mary.
Yeah.
So John,
Take it offline, but-
John O'Connor, is there a time limit, like, we probably should do it sooner than later, but
Well, the agreement expired and the county, Lucas County wrote this, so they could have sent it to us last year, but they didn't. And, so it is expired, so they would like all the communities in, the county to approve it as soon as possible. I guess one of the things that I guess I was kind of, glad to see is that, townships are actually paying their fair share, like Springfield Township,
That's
Sylvania
new, by
Township.
the way.
Communities that have, a large tax base that, they are subsidized by the
Township.
county and
Huge.
actually they're paying most of the, they're paying more than the county share because, they get a lot of the service from the county and they should pay for that. So in that respect, it is nice to see that, Sylvania Township, who has, 50,000 people, they're actually paying their fair share of what it costs to run the health
That's
department.
John, we'll take the
I did have a couple, and I agree with Barb, this agreement is not necessarily crystal clear.
Thank you.
Not a model of clarity, but I was confused, and maybe Mary, you might know, why is there a district advisory council which encompasses the villages and townships, in addition to the regional combined health district? Why do we have two boards for this?
The townships prefer to have their own board, and they have representatives on the Board of Health. So each city has a representative, we have a representative, and Sylvania, Maumee, and then the townships have 2 representatives that cover all the townships, instead of having each township have a representative on the board. And they chose to have a separate committee to, you know, and then they elect their representatives
So does-
to the
but
board.
I was confused whether that committee, the District Advisory Council for the Lucas County Health, that's the townships and villages. Does that have, does that committee have any authority? Or is it just the Toledo
just
Lucas County Board of Health?
Well, the Lucas County Board of Health has the authority, but the townships have a say in how they come to the pricing, and, you know, they have to agree to the pricing for all the townships at the district area council meeting, and then the representatives go to the board and vote.
And that, so the reason they did that, just to be clear, is each township does not have their own representative, but they have combined, 1 or 2 combined representatives.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
And the city of Toledo has 4 representatives.
So do you
But
have
when you
4?
look at the
Well, they're paying the biggest
percentage of
share,
what they're
right,
paying,
yes,
right.
right. And again, what the health department does for us is restaurant inspections, swimming pool inspections. This is totally unrelated, just so we all know, I think we all know, to what we're about to face with regard to the EMS and
It's
the
not
911.
totally unrelated.
It's not totally
It
unrelated?
is not totally unrelated. The county commissioners have made a decision to, we've had an ambulance in White House for 20 years that the county pays for. They pay $850,000 a year to have an ambulance there and staff it 24/7. The county has always done that. They have decided that they want to put an end date on that support. So they told this board that they will fund it for the next 2 years. It was 3 years, but now it's down to about 2.5. And then at that point, they will either stop funding it or they will fund it partially. But they haven't said what they're going to do after the 3 years. They haven't said that they're going to pull all $850,000, but they will be pulling a portion. They have a jail to build, and that's how they're funding the jail.
So that's in the same agreement, that, or the same?
It's all the same
all part of this
body.
agreement?
It's the same body.
Same body.
But the county's making the decision to not fund the ambulance anymore, which falls on us to make sure that we have enough ambulances to cover our area 24/7, which we do, but we rely on them for transport a lot. They usually show up at our emergencies, especially when we need more help than what we have on site. So they still come to a lot of our calls. I don't know if we can break that out, but
They're trying to break some.
yeah. Did I misspeak at all?
But that's not coming out of this fund.
No, it's not coming out of this fund. The county pays for this, but they're not going to pay for it in 3 years, or it's 2.5 years now. And at that point, Waterville will either have to make up that money, or Waterville White House and Waterville Township will have to figure out how we're gonna fund that ambulance if we're going to continue to have it, right? Do I have that right?
Yeah, there's a lot of technicalities in there, but to answer your question about the run volume,
Yeah,
they did have a hard time breaking down the life squads by actual corporational limits because they're more so in jurisdictional areas, and there's what we call the vortex. So when a life squad transports to downtown Toledo due to a trauma or so forth and so on, once they get in downtown Toledo, where do you think the majority of the runs are? Well, the life squads go off of the closest available unit.
right.
So when we send personnel on a life squad downtown, I drive my personal car and go get them, because we won't get them back for hours because they're gonna be stuck taking runs in the middle of Toledo. We call it the vortex.
Yeah,
So it's hard to determine what runs they took and where they have taken them. I would estimate that they do about 750 calls with us. We're there, but they assist.
Per year?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's an estimate.
Yep.
Do not hold me to that number.
Right.
It's an estimate.
but it is a number that we have been concerned about as council members, because we know in 2.5 years, this number is looming, and at some point, we're gonna have to cover that expense.
Yeah, so it's the extra hands, like you said. We're covering the 750 already.
Right.
It would be the extra hands for, when those times are needed. We
Right.
would have to cover that, yes.
Why don't I suggest a good conversation, but can we get back to the
Sorry.
measure in hand, and then I want to come back to it,
I just
'cause
want to make sure we answer
I
the
got comments. So
questions.
Barb,
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's all.
John, do you have anything else?
I just one other question, Mary, I'm sure you
Yep.
know the answer. Are all of the members of these two boards compensated?
I don't know if the DAC is compensated. I know that when I was on the Board of Health 6 years ago, we got $75 a meeting.
What's the DAC?
That's the district area council, that's
Oh, that's for
the
okay.
townships and,
Townships.
yeah.
You don't know if
It's-
they're compensated separately?
I don't know that they are. I mean, I think that the two gentlemen, or the two people that are, the representatives that are on the board are compensated for board meetings, but I don't know that they're compensated outside of that.
Okay.
I don't think they are, and they represent 11 townships, those two.
Yeah, because there's some confusion, John, because on page 3, it says the 12 members who shall serve without pay except that which is provided by the general laws of the state of Ohio,
Right.
as they now or hereafter may exist. But then on page 4, it says members of the Regional Combined Board of Health, last paragraph, shall be compensated for attendance at meetings and or reimbursed for expenses.
Which it's just like sitting on council. The state of Ohio says we need to be paid a certain amount. If you're on a Board of Health board, the state says you need to be compensated for that attendance of those meetings. It's in the,
Well, I'm just saying
it's in
there's
the
a
Ohio.
conflict.
It's in
Here
the
they
Ohio
say they'll
code.
serve without pay,
Right, because they're
and
not
then they
paid.
say they will be paid.
They're not being, they're only being paid to attend the meetings. They're not being, there's not a salary is what that's saying.
Correct.
There's not a salary with the position, it's just if you attend a meeting, it's $75 for Board of Health. I don't know if that number's changed, but that's what it was when I was on
Well,
the
that
board.
does clarify it.
There's no salaries for the board.
Okay. So while you say, Phil, that this is, they are subject, their authority is subject to the Ohio Revised Code,
Correct.
Right, state of Ohio,
I don't know.
everything they do.
I don't trust
This
it.
is like everything today, the price of doing business is skyrocketing. And it's no given and no difference for government. And we know that the government that can least afford and sometimes needs the most is Toledo. And if the center of a wheel is bad, the spokes don't do very well either.
So,
Can we quote you on that, Council?
Yeah, I mean, there's gotta be money to run it. And we're in a metropolitan area. We have a temagogue for that reason. And what's good for the center is good for the suburbs and vice versa. It's a wheel. If it breaks down any part, your car goes off the road.
Right, I get the analogy. However, all I'm asking for is, accountability. And I think it's always, I would like to see the budget, quite frankly. I
They'll bring
think
it out. I mean,
after we vote for this,
I mean,
I think I would personally,
I went to
would
the
like
meeting and I
table
saw
this.
the budget
Yeah.
for 2023. I took Tim's place at the last meeting
Okay,
and approved this based on how they spent the money before, so I'll bring that to your house and we can go over the budget. They have a very detailed budget that they go over in the board meeting, and I mean, more detailed than ours, so.
I would suggest, if we're gonna vote on this, I would suggest that we also add a comment that Waterville Council is anxious and interested to know more about the budget, and thanks to Mary, we'll get a copy, but we're gonna, I think, we're going to approve it, but we have some concerns going forward,
Sure.
and we wanna monitor, and I think that will at least demonstrate commitment and responsibility for these fundings. So with that, we have a motion on the table, we have moved and seconded, I believe. So I'll ask for a vote on resolution 3423. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
nay.
Nay
Opposed.
opposed for Barb, okay.
And that's
Alright.
because it's just a sloppy document, so so I'll
Right.
stand for that.
And then going back to what we were also discussing about the 911 and the ALS, I'd like us to come back a little later because there have been some communications. I know John and I know Doug have been involved. It's not, in my opinion, it's not a done deal that's been proposed the way that Mary described it, and not saying that it won't end up that way, but I have been contacted by some other officials in the community, in the outside the Lucas County community, that would like to sit down and go through this. It's my understanding when REMSNO, Regional Emergency, I'll probably get the acronym wrong, but this goes back like 20 plus years ago, 25. REMSNO was in force similar to this, what we talked about. It was decided 25 or so years ago that the advanced life support system would be a better system. So taxpayers in Lucas County were asked to fund this new program. Somewhere in the line, whether it was wasn't an oversight, it was a law, I believe, that they couldn't say the money was going to the emergency vehicles, went to the general fund. But every intention of every voter that said yes, in my opinion, thought those monies were going to the ambulance. And they have been. But now, speed forward, there's this talk of releasing themselves from funding that. And there's also some opinions that it's better to be more local control. So the bottom line is, there's been some suggestions of how this might shake out. It's not a done deal yet, and council has to get more up-to-date information, but we got some time, and we'll certainly keep council informed. So we can have the discussion later. But Barbara, go ahead.
Well, in line with that, who is the woman that's in charge of the 911 services?
Stacy Mitchell.
Could we ask her to come to our next council meeting and?
She could, and just keep in mind, she's administering what's with the region.
She's not in charge of this.
Go ahead,
this-
Doug.
She's not in charge of the conversion, the decentralization of the ALS. That's the county commissioners. The 3 county commissioners are the ones that are making these decisions. And Stacy Mitchell works for a county entity, which is kind of like TMACOG. It's made up of communities that joined this 911 consolidation. She's just trying to make it all work, I guess you could say. So.
She runs the communication portion.
Doug, before you go, so please understand, it's the intention of consolidation makes sense. It makes all kinds of sense. We're just going through the growing pains, how to manage it best, and it's understanding how it could be improved upon. So I don't want to go away saying that I'm not in favor of it, but there's just a lot of moving parts. It's been around for a couple of years. They're still getting the bugs out of the system, and we've got some work to do to make sure it's even better. Doug?
Yeah, Stacy's in charge of the consolidation of government, so the COG. She's in charge of the communications. So this is a completely separate issue from what she does. She takes care of dispatching. So she's involved in it because when these rigs go away, dispatching will change, but she is by no means in charge of the contract or any of the rigs out there. She's in charge of some people that sit behind the councils and make sure we get there.
So maybe we should invite one of the commissioners.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think some of that going forward, we need to have some of those. All right, we will move on. We need a motion to move into executive session. Need a motion?
So moved.
So moved, John Rozak.
Second.
Second, Anthony Bruno. All those in favor say aye. Excuse me.
Aye.
We've got a roll call, excuse me, go ahead.
And that's for imminent and pending court action.
I want to redo that. I'm going to redo it right now. So I need a motion to move to executive session for consideration of matters of per Ohio Revised Code 121.22 G3, imminent and pending court action. I need a roll call, or need a motion to accept that?
I'll renew my motion, Mayor.
You want to remove it?
Renew.
Renew it, okay. And second? Anthony Bruno. Roll call.
Mr. Browski?
Yes.
Mr. Rozak?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mayor Petro?
Yes.
Mrs. Duncan? Yes. Mrs. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Frye?
Yes.
we don't anticipate any more business after the executive session, so thank you. And enjoy the Rots and Blues this weekend.